So they definitely won't be making it easy for them.
Yeah, they won't be making it easy for him. One person that won't be will be our championship leader, as we'll run through those standings right now for the Pro-Am Championship. Adam Zeininger is sitting on the P1, 1 point ahead of Paul Lonigan right now in the championship. Lars Jeppesen, who is unfortunately not with us tonight because of the BES Pro Series, he is in third. Jason Bentz in fourth, with Anthony Winkelmann rounding out the top 5, who I have not yet seen tonight either. And then when we look at the overall teams championship that is going over both series, we have Laser Racing Simulator sitting P1, Green Hornet Racing in P number 2, Mad Cow Racing, Archipelago Racing, and then Eurasia Sim Sports. So the teams championship is pretty much Laser Racing at the moment. They are a fair way in front, but the drivers championship, however, for Pro-Am is very close. Only 1 point separating Adam Zeininger and Paul Lonigan. Could see either one of them take the championship lead away after this run tonight, Zach.
Yeah, absolutely. We've seen some really fantastic showings by both of those drivers, and I think I'm not sure I've seen Paul Lonigan in there tonight, but so this could be a good chance for Adam Zeidinger to extend his championship lead quite a fair bit. Oh no, sorry, he's in there. My mistake.
Yeah, he's there. He's here. We're not going to miss out on the Green Hornet Racing cars. Paul Lonigan still in the BMW tonight. He is going to be solely in that BMW for the team. I think his teammate, I'm trying to find Nathan Growden, is in the Audi, whereas Anthony Winkelmann is not here tonight, so that's unfortunate not to see Anthony here tonight. That'll hurt him in the championship standings. But as we'll have a look at the weather now, the weather is 23 degrees ambient with a track of 43 degrees, northeasterly 18km/h winds. So that's going to be a little bit treacherous, especially for this track, Zach. The tyres are going to be real sticky for those early stages and have a massive drop off. And depending on the strategy where people go, you could fuel save today, but it's very risky. You're going to lose a lot of time compared to those guys who will be flat out from the word go.
Yeah, look, and that's absolutely right. I think if you are going for the fuel strategy game today, I think one of the advantages will be the heat for you. And the simple reason for that is if you're constantly pushing as hard as you can, you're obviously going to wear those tyres out a little quicker, and especially around this place road Atlanta, especially coming down through the S's, you can develop, if you wear the front tyres too much, you can develop a lot of understeer, and if you wear the rear tyres too much, you can get a lot of oversteer coming out of those really good traction zones. So there is a lot of time to be lost by wearing out those tyres, and that could possibly play into the hands of the guys who are fuel saving today. But yeah, I mean, it's going to be really interesting to see. We've had some really interesting results the last couple of races with people fuel saving, with people pitting. So yeah, I mean, it's really been difficult to call the last few races. So we'll probably find out only in the last 5 minutes really who's where and what's going to end up happening.
Yeah, that's right. There's a lot of different strategies that have come up, especially over the past couple of weeks, with Adam Zeidinger winning last week after not fuel saving, and then the week before as well with Lars Jeppesen fuel saving and making it to the end. So I think this one's a little bit more pushing towards the come in, get a full tank of gas and go again. But I have had some people talk to me and say they can make it. They are expecting 34 laps tonight. That's the big thing. How many laps are we going to get? 34, 35, or are we going to push it to another 36? I don't think that will be the case. I think we will be looking at 34 or 35. I have heard a couple of people say 34 is the number. 35 could be the number, depending on the pace that these top guys run. And that's the thing that's caught out a lot of people. Zach, last week, who caught out Tim Ryan going that extra lap. He ran out of fuel, and a couple of people have been caught out by that. And if it happens again, it could catch some guys who I have heard are going to try and save a little bit more and try and push the envelope and try and see what they can get out of it.
Yeah, well, that's absolutely right. I mean, when you're doing the fuel saving, you obviously want the pace to be as slow as possible. So if you can get out, if you manage for everyone else to pit, you're in the lead, and you can control the pace, that's the best thing to do. But it doesn't often work out that way, and you'll often find that you'll be working to a number, and then all of a sudden the pace is too quick, and you've got an entire extra lap to do. And that's definitely what's caught Tim out the last couple of races. I think he was he was leading the last lap of the last two races and hasn't managed to finish either of them. So that's definitely something that you need to take into account when you're doing the fuel saving, obviously making sure that the pace is as controlled as possible. With these higher track temps, 43 degrees is pretty hot, so it is a slower pace. So that could also play into the advantage of the guys fuel saving as well. But as you said before, it's only a short pit lane here. Maybe coming in and topping up will be the way to go. We'll see, I guess, towards the end of the race today.
Yeah, I think that's where it's all going to come down to who is stopping and who isn't. Looking at some of the times now in this warm-up session, half an hour before the race starts, after qualifying was done half an hour ago. We're looking at Adam signing last week's winner is right now on 19.4, but everyone will be on their race fuel, their race strategy right now, trying to figure out what they can do, what they can get out of tyres, out of fuel, out of their magic lap number that they're going to be pushing towards if they're going to come in. Depending on traffic, we've got to remember the reverse grid just changes the whole complexion of this race. I know you got to look at the people who were top qualified, Kevin One, and the quickest in qualifying, Tobias Cherney, who's right now in P4 in warm-up. Those two were the top in the only two McLarens, mind you. So those cars are very quick, Zach, and we could expect them to try and slice and dice their way through the field. Or they could be the ones that fuel save. Because they're back in that pack, they know they have the pace to sort of turn the burners up and go. And they could be the dark horses of this one.
Yeah, I mean, you're absolutely right. I mean, there's so many different ways you can go about it, and especially if you know that you have the pace. If you've been on pole, you go, right, well, I'm pretty quick around here. Maybe if I do fuel save a little bit, maybe I'll actually be able to go a little faster than everyone else who is fuel saving. And if the guys who are up in front of you are fuel saving, you're in the faster car, you're in the slipperier car, you're going to be able to overtake people pretty quickly. So I think that's definitely going to work to those guys' advantage. But again, you don't know what everyone else is doing. Other people might be pitting, other people might be fuel saving, and it's a very hard game to guess until you really see people pulling away. In qualifying, I think we had 1st to 16th were covered by less or about a second. Times in the warm-up at the moment are looking a little bit more spread out, so it will definitely be interesting to see what everyone's doing.
Yeah, I think that's definitely going to be the case of who is going to be doing what when they get going. As the grid starts to form up, so we'll run through the order right now in the reverse top 10. So a reminder that the starting person who actually was fastest in qualifying is actually starting P9, not starting P1, because obviously we're missing someone in the top 10. I'll try and figure out who that is later on. But Cohen Klopman will take the pole position here with Adam Zeininger, last week's winner, on the outside of the front row. Ian Ford and Luis Polo Galong on row number 2, Nathan Grouden and Michael Hammond on row 3, Jason Benson, Kevin Huan rounding out row 4, Tobias Cherney top qualifier in P9 with Tim Ryan in 10th, Paul Lonigan 11th with Tino Huser in 12th, Hayden Burns down in 13th with Benjamin Hackison 14th, Yazran Lee down in 15th with Paul A. Nelson in 16th, Matt Shanosky 17th and Dick A. Lee rounding out row number 9, and the final car on the grid, Simon Jorge Sanchez rounding out the 19 cars on this grid, which is a smaller grid than what we're used to. Zach, we only see 22 cars in the qualifying session, so we're obviously missing a couple of cars who haven't made it to this server.
Yeah, usually the turnout's pretty good. I think obviously having the Blancpain Endurance Series on tonight, the World Championship race, that's obviously a big one. I know there are a lot of people who are working very hard as the race only starts in about an hour, I think. So I think there's a lot of people putting their final touches and their final preparations on their cars, and team managers making sure that everything's okay, and people starting to spot and do calculations. So it's a very busy time. I'm sure some people are taken away, but that's not to take away from any of the guys that we have on the grid here today. We've got some very, very experienced drivers, very, very fast drivers. Obviously, we've got Adam Zeitinger, championship leaguer. Tobias Cherney is always very quick. Kevin Huang, Nathan Grouden, Michael Hammond. Michael Hammond's a previous champion. So we've got some very, very good drivers on the grid here today.
Yeah, we've got always that stout field up the front. Just having a look now at the previous qualifying results, and who we're missing inside that top 10 is Muhammad Ali Ishak, which is unfortunate not to see him. And
Yes.
also Martin Silvassi we have lost that have not made it to this server. They were two of the qualifiers. So unfortunate Muhammad Ali Ishak, I think he could have been a little bit of a dark horse. But while these cars are rolling down this long back straight, which has 2 corners in it, mind you, turn 8 and turn 9, who is your pick to win this one, Zach, tonight?
Oh, that's a tough question. Look, there's a lot of things to take into account. Tobias Cherney has showed some very impressive pace. He's a very reliable driver generally, and if he does stretch that fuel a little bit, maybe he can do a zero stop and make it to the end. That would definitely put him in a great position. I think though Adam Zeiding has been really impressing me recently, and we've also got Ian Ford up there, who's obviously a very experienced and accomplished V8 driver. His first time in a GT3 will be interesting to see what he does as well, but I think I'm going to go with Adam Zeiding today.
Yeah, I think Adam Zeiding is not a bad pick there, as the car's actually rolled down the hill right now, and Colin Klopman is gone, who I thought he would, so he is finally at the front of this field, and we are away here for 45 minutes of racing at Road Atlanta for Sim Racers Asia. And having a look back there, that's the teammates Jason Bentz and Michael Hammond side by side into turn one. They managed to sort it out. Tim Ryan back there as well, going a little bit wide around the outside. I think that's a Paul Lonigan. They have Kevin Huang in front of them, and that's where you don't want to be right now, back in that little battle pack on the outside of the top 10. They're going to be fighting hard to figure out what they're doing, but it looks like it's pretty calm, which is a good sight to see. Everyone's pretty much formed up in their little order and going to see what they can do from here.
Yeah, absolutely. We had a couple of guys going too wide through turns 1 and 2 there. I think I saw Nathan Grounden making a little move in that Green Hornets Audi. But yeah, everyone's made it through very clean, which is good to see. Obviously, getting a good draft will be very important. So you find that maybe in these early stages, people won't be fighting too much. They'll just be getting their fuel numbers in, checking how far they can go on these, in this weather, on these tyres. As we do see actually a move down the inside there.
Yeah, that's
I believe
Ian
that was
Ford. Yep, Ian
yeah,
Ford,
and that was a good
Louis
job
Galong.
there.
Yeah, Louis Galong did a good job going down into turns 10A and B. Did a good job there, and someone is mightily off the track. That is a a laser racing.
I think that's
simulated
Jason Bentz
car.
there.
That was
Yeah.
Bentz. Yeah, Jason Bentz is off, and it looks like Hayden Burns is going to capitalise on Tim Ryan into turn 1. And he's done that, so another good position there from Hayden Burns has moved up. But yeah, that's unfortunate to see Jason Bentz get involved in a little an incident there with someone, and it's moved him right in this battle pack that we were talking about early on. He's down right now between behind Tino Hussar in the Audi. He'll be wanting to try and get that Ford GT by him and try and get back into the rhythm and strategy that he was working towards early on, Zach.
Yeah, that's absolutely right. It looks like he's just gotten a little loose coming over the hill there, which is very easy to do. But that just goes to show, with these hotter temperatures, the tires can just heat up so quickly. You lose that rear traction, and just that little bit of loss of traction there has caused him to go on the grass. He's lost about 4 or 5 spots there, which is quite unfortunate, and that will be quite difficult to make up throughout the race.
Yeah, well, he may be able to make up another one using his Ford GT power in the top end. He is right behind Tino Hussar coming down into turn A. He's going to throw it down the inside, and Tino Hussar gives him the room. He's got that one done, so move Jason Bentz up another position after that little mistake. He'll be ruining what he did. It's just one of those little errors getting the rear end loose. I think that will move him down into P number 13, so he's a fair way behind, or 12, sorry. So he's a fair way behind, but he'll be able to make that up quite easily. And I was just having a look before, Tobias Cherney was having a look on Michael Hammond. He wasn't close enough, and that's one of the guys I wouldn't be surprised. He has the fastest car, he did that in qualifying, set the fastest time. Reverse grid obviously put him further down the pack, so we'll see what he can do later on. And I think there has been a lead change as Adam Zeiding has gotten around Colin Klopman and is gone.
Yeah, Adam Zeiding has definitely moved ahead there, and he's pulled away a little gap there, which will be nice. Don't think he's quite broken the draft on the 2 Mercedes behind him. But also, I mean, we're seeing a bit of pressure coming up here on Ian Ford. Michael Hammond is obviously really desperate to get past him as well, having Tobias Cherney on his tail. But it looks like Tobias has got a bit of a run here, and I wouldn't be surprised if he might just have a little bit of a look up the inside at the chicane here. He has a bit of a peek out, but he's just a bit too far back there.
Yeah, just sat back behind Michael Hammond here, run that Ford GT, the horsepower on that car in the top end. It's hard to try and rack that up even in the draft. You just got to be right on him to be able to make as much ground as possible. But surprised it's been fairly calm. As actually, as I say that, there is a car in the pit right now. Simon Jorge Sanchez looks like he has had an incident somewhere out in the track, and he is going to get his car repaired and come back out a lap down in 19th position. Sorry. So that's unfortunate for him, but besides that, everyone has been pretty calm. That little mistake from Jason Bentz before, but this front pack, it's interesting to see this, Zach. Everyone's really calm. As actually Michael Hammond makes a mistake,
Hammond.
and that was Kevin Huang hit him. Kevin Huang
it's
hit
so
him,
easy to do.
Yep, there's people got to be careful.
Oh,
There's other cars just plowing into this. They should have slowed down. There would have been yellow flags out in that sector. They didn't need to come flying out. I think Tino Husa and Tim Ryan also hit those cars. That was, yeah, that was not needed right there. I think some of those guys should have realised that there was a car across the track that would have been yellows and should have taken it a bit more easier than what they did.
Yeah, look, I absolutely agree with that. That was a really unfortunate spot for Michael to end up there. I mean, that hill is pretty blind at the best of times. Really easy mistake he made there. I know I've made that one a million times. Just taking a little bit too much curb, just skips the car across the top there, and then the rear just kind of goes, it just jumps, and you kind of have no traction whatsoever. Very easy mistake to make. An unfortunate mistake because he was running really well.
Sorry, there's another big mistake. Louis Galong and Ian Ford have gotten together as Fordy saved it. No, Fordy has gone around as well. They just, I'm just trying to figure out what happened there. I seen it out of the corner of my eye. Sorry to cut you off there, Zach, but Louis Galong made a mistake in the exit turn one, hit the grass, and then that was it. He just managed to clip Ian Ford, and Fordy tried to do everything he could to save the Mercedes, and around it went. So the Evolution Racing Australia MPMS sponsored Mercedes went around. He lost a bunch of spots, and it's really opened up this top sort of 10 pack that we had forming, Zach. It's really just sort of let Colin Klopman and Adam Zeininger stick away, but look who is there. Tobias Cherney now will be in P number 4 behind Nathan Groudon. Don't count him out. He may have qualified P1, got reverse grid as he's having a look down in the 10A. Wow.
He wasn't quite close enough there. That was a bit cheeky there to kind of keep his nose in there, but he was very smart to get out of that. Ian Ford was very unlucky with that accident at turn 1. I think he could see what was coming. He got as far to the right as he could, but unfortunately that spinning car just managed to tag him, and you're right, he did absolutely everything in his power to save that one, but it just wasn't enough, unfortunately.
Yeah, he couldn't save that. Even driving the V8, all those laps in the V8, the Mercedes is a bit of a different beast. So he's done a good job, though. He managed to regather what he could. He's now coming down pit road to get that service. He's going to get the car fixed. He's going to put that little bit of fuel in, and we'll see what he can try and get as a points result out of this one. But yeah, Tobias was really lucky. He knew that he wasn't close enough, pardon me, to Nathan Groudon in front of him, and he sort of backed out, and then he didn't. Then he backed out finally at the last minute to not cause a collision. I think he just needs to sit there right now and save a bit of fuel. He did a 20.6 last time round compared to the leaders who did a 20.3, Adam Zeininger, and a 20.0 Colin Cotman. So Colin Cotman's actually picked up the pace here in that Red Bull Mercedes, and he's pushing a little bit hard right now. Maybe both of these two out in front are pitting by the pace that they're setting at the moment. It could be, but this sort of argues the fact. What lap number are we going to with this pace? I was doing calculations before. If they were in the 118s and there or thereabouts, we'd be looking at 35. At this rate, we could be only getting 34 laps, which could help those fuel savers.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, those guys, the gap up the front has definitely tightened. They may realise that they have the faster cars coming up behind them and that they need to start pushing. We've got Tobias Cherney here. He's putting some big pressure on Nathan Groudon now. I think the Mercedes know that they don't have the straight line speed, and as soon as these Audis or these Mercedes get on into that tow, they know that those things will just be right up behind them in an awful hurry. So I think they might just be pushing at the moment, hoping Nathan and Tobias will get into a little bit of a battle, which might slow them up a bit. Just seeing if they can take advantage of the gap that they might be able to make at this point in time.
Yeah, we'll see. It's Tobias Cherney right now. He's right underneath that rear wing of
And
the
he's
Audi.
got a good run too.
Yeah, here
He's going
comes
for the
good
outside
run.
line.
I think he's got in quite nicely there. I don't think Nathan Groudon's going to
Yeah.
fight him that much, and he didn't. He didn't need to. He knows Tobias is faster. He doesn't need to sort of push the envelope now. And he needs to run his own race. He's in a good position here, whether he's fuel saving or he's running to coming into a stop. I think he's doing the right thing there. Let Tobias run his race. Let him himself, Nathan Groudon, that be, run his own and stay out of any trouble that's been plaguing a lot of these top 10 runners.
Yeah, that's right. And sometimes that's just what you have to do. You know, you have to go, well, maybe I'm not as fast as the guys around me, but if you know, being able to hold on to Tobias for a while, getting that draft, which might allow you to fuel save, or if you're not planning on fuel saving, it will allow you to gain a little bit. You know, a tow around here can be worth 4/10 a lap quite easily, and over 30 odd laps, that can add up to a huge amount. So if he might have just realized it's not worth, you know, spending the few seconds battling with him, I'll just tuck behind, get a bit of a tow, maybe later it'll pay off much better. And you know, if one of the guys up ahead makes a mistake, he could definitely capitalize off that quite easily.
Yeah, definitely could. And just having a look back here, Tino Husa, car number 16 in P number 8 at the moment, with Paul Nelson behind in another Audi, so two Audis here battling it out just on the inside of the top 10. They've also got a Mercedes of Benjamin Hackerson for Apex Racing Academy right there behind them in P number 10. They've been really close. They've been having some good battles here down here, and Tino Husa's been in a little bit of trouble with all the other cars around them. And I wonder what these guys are thinking as well. They're in a good little spot just on the inside of the top 10. They're not that far off the lead battle when you think of it, 12 seconds. There's a little bit at the early stages, but with all the stuff that was going on, they've sort of can now get into a rhythm and try and see what they can do. Because if they can get into a nice rhythm and get their strategy right, Zach, they could be right inside this top 5, maybe even on the podium if they do something right.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, they've obviously got quite a bit of the gap to the cars ahead of them, and they've got a little train going here, so they may be thinking, right, well, let's just, you know, keep the lap times pretty consistent, keep it smooth, keep it on the track, and just save as much fuel as we can. That'll take them home to the end. And if any of the guys up ahead maybe have a problem, or if they do need to pit, they could just jump quite a few positions there, which would be absolutely fantastic for them. It'll be interesting to see, because we have a bit of a gap now. We got Tino Hauser has about a 5 or 6 second gap up to Jason Bentz ahead of him. It'll be interesting to see. Jason Bentz has pretty good pace as well. It'll be interesting to see what he can do in the next couple of laps in terms of closing that gap up to Paul Lonergan, who's he's quite up close behind as well.
Yeah, it's been a good recovery drive at the moment from Jason Bentz. He had that little mistake early on, but he's still pushing hard on now, trying to close that gap. We'll have a look at the times of the Paul Lonergan did a 20.2 to a 20.0 of Jason Bentz. So he's definitely pushing that Ford GT as hard as he can, trying to close the gap right down. And he's trying to close what he can and salvage as much as he can. He needs those points. He was sitting there in the title hunt. He did win round 1 of the championship, so he's there or thereabouts, and he doesn't want to have any more races go by the wayside. But it looks like this top sort of 7 has just spread out. Tobias Cherney is closing considerably on the front too. Tobias Cherney did a 19.917 compared to the leaders both in the 20s. So Tobias is definitely pushing hard. I'm not surprised. Maybe he thinks the time is now not to save and the time is to go, unless he did some fuel saving in those early laps, Zach, which he could have done. It's not like you need a lot of fuel save, or you do, but you can sort of manage it where you can save a little bit more this lap, push a couple of laps and save a little bit more these extra other laps. It's on an on and off window of where you're fuel saving and what you're trying to get out of it. It's actually Colin Cotman has gained a lot of time right now and Adam Zeininger for the lead.
Yeah, that's right. And I mean, Tobias could be looking at several different options here. He could be looking at pitting. I don't think his lap times quite at the moment is suggesting the fact that he might pit. He could definitely be fuel saving, but you're absolutely right. It's where you pick and choose to do your fuel saving. At the beginning of the race, it's really easy to make up positions without using too much fuel if you drive smart and you drive carefully, which, you know, Tobias has absolutely proven here today. He's kept himself out of trouble, started 9th or 10th, sorry. He's currently now up into 3rd, so he's driven really smart. Maybe he was saving some fuel getting through the pack while other people were having problems, and now he's got up on the back of these guys now. He's definitely getting a tow from that, and he'll just be able to, you know, sit at the throttle at 90%, which will save you a huge amount of fuel down that long straight in the long run.
Yeah, I think he's definitely a part of this battle now. This is definitely a battle, a 3-car battle for the lead, as Common Cotman is definitely ranged up on the back of Adam Zerdinger. And yeah, like you're saying, I think he may have saved a little bit of fuel in those early stages. It wouldn't have surprised me. Yeah, Tobias has been in this game for a long time. He knows what he's doing when it comes to sim races Asia. He's always up there at the pointing end, and whether or not he has some little mistakes, not of his fault or other dramas that he has, he still comes back week after week and can show the pace that he has. And it looks like he is starting to really close the gap. I think he is definitely the strongest out of these top 3. But then again, who knows what these top 2 are running. Adam could be saving fuel, so could Cohen Klopman. So it's really an interesting... Oh, here we go. Here comes Tobias.
Yeah.
He was definitely got the run there out of turn
I'll tell you what, if
5.
he's saving fuel, he's definitely tricking me, because he really looks like he wants to gap these guys. He really looks like he wants to get to the front and make a bit of a gap. If he is saving fuel, he is not showing it, because he's during those S's, that S's portion, during the first 2 sectors, I'm sure the McLaren's quite understeer compared to these Mercs. It's down the straight where he's going to be able to get them, so it looks like he's trying to close up as much as he can through that S's section, stay as tight as possible, and then get a good run down here, which he hasn't been able to do this time. But I'll give it another 2 or 3 laps. I wouldn't be surprised if you see Tobias at the front of this train.
Yeah, he's definitely pushing on as hard as he can at the moment, which it's interesting. It's hard to figure out whether he is trying to fuel save or he is trying to go flat out to the end. Just having a look there at numbers. We're getting 22 laps to go. That's an interesting thing, because that's pushing it to around 34 laps. So if we're looking at a 34-lap race, it definitely puts these guys who are fuel saving in a bit of a better window than the others. So keep an eye on that number as having a look now. Back to P4, Nathan Groudon's definitely dropped off the pace, or the rest of them have closed in on the back. We've got a good battle here for P4, Nathan Groudon in the Audi, Hayden Burns in the Mad Cow Racing BMW with Paul Lonigan, the teammate of Nathan Groudon in his BMW, with Jason Bentz, who had that earlier little spin, closing up on the back as well. So that's a good battle from 4th through to 7. So we've got 2 battle packs really to keep an eye on here, Zach. The battle for the lead, which is looking like Tobias is close enough, maybe not.
Oh, he's pretty close.
Oh, Cohen actually went defensive there,
going quite
down
defensive
into 10A. Didn't get it done, so sitting back there, and Jason Benz is having a look on Paul Lonigan in the pack behind, and he's going to get that job done. So move Jason Benz up another spot, getting around Paul Lonigan, and that'll move him up into P number 6.
Yeah, it looks like Nathan's kept his pace pretty consistently here. It looks like the pack behind him is starting to moving up a little bit in terms of their pace. So I think if Nathan wants to keep his position, he's definitely going to have to start making a little more effort into those lap times. Tobias is really up in P3 as well. I mean, he is really pushing now. You could see Cohen really going defensive down into turn 10 there. And he's just made a little mistake, ran a little bit wide coming out of the turn 5, just at the end of the S's there. Tobias is right in the prime position here. He just needs to get a good exit, and he is going to have a fantastic run down into turn 10 here.
Yeah, if he got a good exit there. Little bit of a wobble on the exit, but he should be alright. And the thing that's hurting him at the moment is Colin Copman's getting a little bit of help from that Evolution Racing Australia MS Limited Edition Mercedes out in front, and this could be a 3 wide situation going down into turn 10A. Is Tobias on the grass. He managed to bring it back. He, like I said, 3 wide was about to happen. Tobias went, nope, don't want no part of that, and I'm going to sit back in and wait another time. But that was ranging up to be a little bit of disaster there, and they all managed to sort themselves out and get away with what could have been a bit of a mighty accident going down into turn 10A there and 10B, and it looks like, having a look now, Ian Ford has actually disconnected, so something obviously has happened there, and he is and he has retired from this race.
Yeah, it's unfortunate to see. He showed some real promise. He had some good lap times in the qualifying and was putting down some good times in the warm-up as well. So it's a shame he came to a bit of grief there and has decided to retire. But yeah, I mean, that move down into turn 10 there, that was getting pretty hairy. Credit where credit's due, though. They didn't really lose much time to Adam Zeitinger there. Adam definitely had a bit of a chance there to make a bit of a gap on the guys fighting, but they've certainly held their ground. And yeah, you're absolutely right. Cohen Klopman there getting a bit of a tow is definitely going to help him outmaneuver Tobias Journey.
Yeah, and I think he's having a look on the inside of Adam. He's going to really throw it down the inside. Adam gave him room. And I was just having a look back because I think there was a position change as well. There was. Jason Benz has moved himself past Hayden Birds in the Mad Car Racing BMW. So there's another position change. These two battle backs are really starting to heat up. This battle for the lead, though. Here goes Cohen Klopman to the inside of Adam Zeitinger into turn number 1. Oh, Adam just shut the door and said, no, thank you. You're not getting that one done. And he's going to have to sit behind for another lap. And Tobias is just sitting back here now. I think he can afford to save a little bit of fuel. He's got the pace to get around these two in front with that McLaren. He showed it by putting it P1 in quali, and he's shown it by closing up on these guys, and he's doing a good job to sort of sit there.
Yeah, he looks like he's just hanging back there now, kind of relaxing a bit. I think Cohen seems like he's a little bit flustered there, maybe. You can see he's obviously got Tobias in there in the mirrors. He's definitely struggling a little bit. Maybe trying to get past Adam just to alleviate a little bit of that pressure.
Well, sorry to interrupt, Zach. Sorry to interrupt. Jason Benz has actually made a mistake. He just got to P5 and he had a spin the same place that his teammate had around turn 5. So Michael Hammond as well having the same dramas just then as Jason Benz. So that has put him a long way back. Sorry to interrupt.
No, that's okay, mate. That's unfortunate. He was making up some positions really nicely there. Ford GT's a really great car around this circuit. It doesn't take as much fuel as the other cars, so it's really nice and light. And it's also really good in the straight line as well. So it's unfortunate he's had a bit of a spin there. And obviously a big impact there in the team championship. Laser Racing being so far ahead, they now have one driver retired and one quite far back in the field now.
Yeah, that definitely didn't help Jason Bent with the team's championship, and he's actually come in this time. So he's going to try and get his damage repaired. He's going to put some fuel in the car and see what he can try and salvage out of this one. We've only had one car pit. Oh, we've had a couple of cars pit. Well, one car sort of do the around the 7-second pit stop time, which was Matt Shanoski down there, car number 31, who is down in P13. So he's a fair way off. He is the last car on the lead lap. But this battle now for the lead is the battle down there for 4th, 5th and 6th sort of opened up with Jason Bentz going to the wayside. This lead battle has sort of done the same thing. I think they're all just trying to figure out their strategy right now. It's come to that point where we're on lap 17 of, pardon me, around lap 34. So we're just coming up to that sort of midway portion of this race, and I think these guys are just trying to figure out whether they can make it to the end from here, or they can push and come in and get that fuel and then try and make up the position to the win. But I think right now, if these guys are coming in, they all need to come in, because if someone in this sort of leading 6 are fuel saving, they have a great shot to win this race.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if Tobias is playing a bit of a game here. He's his fastest lap so far is a 1:19.5, and he's currently trotting around the 1:21.1s, 1:20.9. So he's about 1.5 seconds to nearly 2 seconds off his, let's say, ultimate pace there. So it would not surprise me at all if he's just chilling back. As we've got a bit of a mistake there by Cohen Klopman just coming out of turn 5 there. That could open up Tobias coming into this. He's just dropped back quite a bit from Adam Zeitinger there, so if he gets a good exit out of here, possibly might have a move going into turn 10 from Tobias here as well, but I think he might just be a little bit far back.
Yeah, I think he's a bit too far back at this present stage, but he'll get the toe and it will close the gap. I don't think it will close it enough. The McLaren doesn't have that much top speed over the Mercedes. They're pretty balanced. The McLaren is obviously quicker, but not by much, so he can get that one safely, comfortably, can hold that position. Ken and Colin Cotman in P2, but it's been interesting this race sort of coming up now, completing lap number 18, this first sort of half of this race. There's been a lot of people making a lot of errors, and that sort of has put a lot of people who we thought would have been up there fighting for this win out of a good points paying position, but it's still kept these two battle packs going. Obviously the first, second and third, and then this battle here of Nathan Groudon, who had just made a little error going around turn number 3 there, the 2, 3, 4 down through the S's right now, coming up to turn number 5. This little battle pack as well has sort of been quiet, but it's been there or thereabouts that these two are all still pretty close.
Yeah, that's right, and I think that has a lot to do with the big, the long straights that you have here at Road Atlanta, especially that back straight. I mean, you can just get such a good toe down there. It really allows you to stick on to the back of guy ahead of you, even if you might be a couple of tenths slower than him. So it does seem that Nathan Groudon does have the pace at the moment. Maybe the other two guys are fuel saving and just trying to keep in the toe and not fully accelerating down the straights. That being said, the Beam is not the fastest in the straight line. The Audi's very slippery. Taking that into consideration as well, it is nice to see that we have a fair variety up here at the pointy end of the field. We obviously have two Mercedes out front, then we've got the McLaren, we've got the Audi, and then two BMWs. And obviously, if Jason Bentz hadn't have made that mistake there, we would have had the Ford GT as well. So it's nice to see that all of the cars as well, or even around this track, can all stay at a pretty reasonable pace with each other.
Yeah, it's good to see that they got rid of the rough after last season and have implemented the Ford GT for this season, and it looks like the Ford GT has been a bit more balanced as per se with the rest of these cars. It's definitely allowed another variety, another championship contender in the mix, and a lot of these teams like Nathan Groudon has actually moved away from a BMW and he's now in an Audi, and vice versa. Teams have moved all over the shop to figure out what car they want to drive for this season, as that is Hayden Burns, sorry, closing right up again to Nathan Groudon. But it just goes to show the legs of the BMW, it's one of its weakest points. It has great cornering, a lot of downforce sort of handling wise. It's nicer through the corners, it can gain time there, but down this long straights is where it really starts to suffer, and it shows. It's in the draft of that Audi, and I don't think it even made a couple of meters on that car in front. It just goes to show, Zach, how much if the BMW could have a little bit more horsepower, how much more they'd be able to dominate a lot of these tracks, but they gained it back through the corners.
Yeah, they do, and I mean, that's just one of the unfortunate, when you pick a car for a season, you are going to come to tracks where your car is disadvantaged compared to other ones. The BMW has been showing great pace. Last week at Imola, we obviously had Tim Ryan, who was fuel saving up at the pointy end of the field until the last lap of the race, where he unfortunately ran out of fuel. But that BMW is just so dynamite in the corners. But you're absolutely right, in a straight line, it's just not quite as competitive, and that can be really frustrating, especially around a course like here, where your main overtaking opportunities are into hard braking zones, where you really need to be, you essentially need to be right next to the guy to be making a move, or you just need to be extremely good under brake. So obviously them not quite being able to get up behind that Audi could be a contributing factor to the reason that they're not getting past. Yeah, I mean, look, the BMW is absolutely fantastic. It's just this track isn't quite as suited to it as some other ones are.
Yeah, not as suited as I think they'd like. They're very good through the first portion of the track, but obviously this back sort of half of the track where it's a lot more long flowing sections, they're just not there with the pace of some of the other cars. But it's funny, we've got a Mad Cow, the meat in the Green Hornet Racing sandwich, pardon that one there, because obviously Mad Cow, but we will figure that one out. I'm still surprised that we have that in the team factor. Paul Lonergan is still stuck to the mighty BMW of his team. It's funny how Anthony Winkelman and Nathan Groudon both went to Audis, but they have he stayed faithful to what they have, and it's interesting, he's still able to compete with the other guys in the Audi. So obviously they had a lot of data which was expected of them on the BMW, and they've been able to translate it quite well to the Audi, and it's kept them almost competitive as they would have been if they were in the BMW.
Yeah, I mean, obviously that's a massive thing you have to consider when you're picking this car as well. You know, how much of this car have we run before? Do we have the data to be able to make the setups for it? The Audi is obviously one of the 2 new cars coming along with the Mercedes. We've had it around for, I think, 2 seasons now, so there is quite a lot of data out there, but there are always tracks that you come to that you haven't been to this car in before. And it also comes down to the driving style of the driver as well. You know, the Audi, it's very, very planted coming out of those traction zones. It does understeer a bit, but it's very difficult to balance when you have to use curbs, when you get any form of oversteer whatsoever. It can be quite hairy. So perhaps, you know, Nathan just has a bit more of a handle on that car. Maybe, you know, Paul tested that car as well and maybe decided that the BMW was more for him. Just going back to this battle up the front as well, Jake, I've just noticed that Tobias Cherney's been dropping off the back of the top 2 quite a bit the last couple of laps. Gaps pulling out quite substantially compared to what we've seen earlier in the race.
Yeah, the gap's now looking at about 3.5 seconds there from the back of Colin Klopman to Tobias Cherney. So I think he is playing that fuel game right now, and he knows he's going to save. He's obviously realised, as I'm looking now, we're looking at around about 34 laps, sorry, to complete this race. So it's 1 lap less than I think some people were expecting. And that is just maybe playing into his hands. Maybe he thinks that he can save that little bit less now and will be better off at the end. But who knows, those 2 out in front, Colin Klopman and Adam Zeininger, they both could be saving fuel as well and just have a considerable better car under them. And we can't forget the McLaren doesn't like the tyres. The tyres will drop and then disappear. But I think Tobias has driven this car enough to figure that out, and he will be doing all he can to make sure that he can get this car to the end, with or without a pit stop. That is still unknown.
Yeah, look, I mean, I used to drive the McLaren a lot. Love the McLaren. One thing it does suffer with, though, as you were just saying, is the tyres, especially in these hotter track temperatures. I know I've gone long races, thought I didn't have to take tyres, and then looped it and put it in the wall. And it does severely affect the amount of lap time that you get as well. So it will be interesting, especially, you know, once the fronts start going off, you get really poor understeer, and then you're trying to counter that understeer with a bit of throttle. You wear your rear tyres out, and then you have poor traction coming out of those nice traction zones, like exactly where he's coming through right now out of turn 7. Beautiful traction zone there. We have noticed he's been pretty squirrely throughout the entire race, so maybe he does have a bit of a rear traction problem with that car. But definitely the McLaren is not, it doesn't like these hotter temperatures, and it's not very good on the tyres, especially compared to the BMW, which I would definitely have to say is the most comfortable on the tyres. But the Merc and the Audi are pretty good too. So I think if there's one thing Tobias is really lacking at the moment, maybe he is just having those tyres come away from him a little bit. Maybe he is saving fuel. You know, we are getting to the later stages of the race now. I expect we'll probably see guys pitting in the next 7 or 8 laps or so if they are going to pit, maybe even earlier depending on strategy. Maybe some of these guys, you know, we've got the guys in the battle pack here, Nathan Grouden. Maybe he'll pit a little earlier just to try and keep ahead of those guys, or maybe Hayden Burns will try and pit earlier and put a couple of fast laps in to try and undercut it.
Yeah, it all matters on when they come in. They're not putting tyres on it, so they're not going to get an undercut in that sense. They're going to have to try and undercut on pure pace of what they've got underneath them at the present time. But yeah, going back to those lap times to Tobias Cherney, it came up on lap number 15 when he decided enough is enough, and then he's done a 20.9, 21.1, 20.9, 20.8, 20.8, 21.0, 20.8, 21.1, 21.2, 21.0. That's pretty consistent, meaning he is definitely on the fuel-saving bandwagon, and I think that's where he's at. I don't know whether that could be a tyre drop-off. I wouldn't suspect that it would be, coming from lap 15 to drop a whole 7/10 compared to what he was running beforehand, let alone compared to what he was running before that when he was in the 19s. So I definitely think that Tobias has dropped and jumped in the fuel saving as he just did a 21.1 again. So having a couple of tenths difference here or there, I think he is in the fuel saving market. We'll see how that goes for him, but it just shows how much time he has actually lost to the two in front, who might not be fuel saving. And if they're not fuel saving, Tobias is only 3.6 seconds away from the lead. When you factor in and an out lap and a fuel stop, etc., you're looking at as there's a lap car in the middle of this little battle here. Just trying to figure out who that one is. That is Simon Jorge Sanchez, actually moves over to the right here on the exit of turn 5. It should let the whole field through, and he does that nicely. That's a good job there from him. But yeah, when you factor in a pit stop and coming in and an out lap, you're looking at around 24, 28 seconds here or thereabouts. So I think if Tobias is fuel saving, he's in a quite nice position, mind you.
Yeah, that's exactly right. I mean, even if you're in now, you're going all the way back down to about 8th position. So definitely being able to save that 28 seconds is going to be a huge difference. I think Tobias at the moment, he's looking like he is in a good position. I think that he's going to be pretty comfortable. Maybe that's another reason. Maybe he knows he's saving fuel. Maybe he knows that the other guys can't make it, just going off the numbers that he has. But it'll be very interesting to see. Maybe you'll see him start picking up the pace. If these guys up ahead of him maybe don't pit when he wants them to, maybe he's expecting them to pit at a certain time. If they don't do that, maybe he will start putting the laps in again. But yeah, it will just be very interesting to see who's pitting and when. And I think until then, he might be a little bit stressed out, but we'll see how he goes.
Yeah, well, when you were talking right then, Zach, Hayden Burns actually was the first to blink of that top 6. So Hayden Burns has come in, got his fuel, stopped for 6.4 seconds there. So that's around the same time Jason Benz stopped for 6 seconds, and he's a little bit further behind, obviously made that little mistake before his pit stop. So we'll have to keep an eye on what Hayden Burns does. So if he's the first one to blink and come down pit road, who's the next to blink? It's sort of opened that window now, where everyone is going to start looking at whether they're going to be stopping or they can make it to the end. We've got these top 5 cars pretty close together. Paul A.O. Nielsen is close or thereabouts. He's 15 seconds away from the lead, a good 10 seconds behind the leading pack, as none of the leading 5 pit. And Tobias Cheney, once again, who is sort of the person we're looking at on the timings chart of what he is doing with the fuel saving numbers, he did a 21.0 again. So I think he's fuel saving. Maybe, not 100% sure, but dropping off that much pace, I think he is. These two behind him could have been fuel saving the entire time. And then you sort of look forward as Colin Copman runs really wide on the exit of turn 5. What has Adam Zeininger and Colin Copman been doing out in front? Have they been pushing these cars so fast right now that they've used too much fuel and they're like, they already accepted the fact that they were going to pit, or they realized they could save some fuel and still run this pace? It's an interesting thing, like you said at the start of the show. We're not going to know until the last 5 minutes. We're coming down to those last 5 minutes. We have about 7 minutes remaining. It's do or nothing now. What you either stick to the strategy of staying out, or you come in and get that little bit of fuel.
I tell you what, I'd love to be sitting in a couple of different TeamSpeak servers right now, just to figure out exactly what's going on, because I really can't pick this at all. I think Zeidinger and Klopman up the front there, I mean, they've seemed like they've been pushing pretty hard all this race. But as I said just a few moments ago, you make that pit stop now, you're going all the way back to at least 7th position. So I mean, that's a lot of places to lose to have to pit. Obviously, there are other guys that might be saving. Interesting to see as well. After Hayden pitted, Paul Lonergan's really
made a mistake, and that is in the
wall.
fence. That is.
I was just saying.
Lick.
Paul Lonergan's really closed up on Nathan Groudon ever since Hayden pitted.
Oh, be careful when he comes back out.
Oh, geez, that wasn't fantastic, was it?
Oh, that was close.
And it looks like Paul Lonergan might have actually lost quite a bit of time there trying to, you know, just keep out of the ways of his teammate or giving his teammate a little bit of room to try and save it as much as possible. So that's not going to help him at all either. And it also means that he's going to have lost that draft. Now, both of those guys, they were kind of closing up on Tobias Cherney a little bit there. I think Paul Lonergan's going to find it quite a lot more difficult to close up on Tobias now as well.
Yeah, I think that sort of opened up the gap for Tobias Cherney to be a little bit more calmer, but I think Nathan Grouden, he just lost it coming out of turn number 4 down through the S's, and that was it. It was just all gone from there. He tried to save it, but those walls are pretty close down through that S's section. He's going to have to pit. He'll be able to get a quick repair and get that car back out there, but that obviously wasn't what he wanted on his strategy, and he wasn't expecting to put that into his findings for today's race, but that's what happens when you're pushing so hard towards the end. We're coming to about 4 or 5 laps to go, so we're looking at around lap 34 finish lap here today, and we're getting to that point where who is going to be in the box seat. Like you're saying, it's really thrown up in the air once again. That's what I love about this series right now. This little implementation that Mark Lang has done this season of putting that fuel, whether you save it or you push it to the end and then push it and then come in and get a pit stop. It's opened the door to make this series another level in a sense. The coming in and pitting stop-go style wasn't really beneficial for anyone, as Cohen Cotton actually closes the gap right now to Adam Zeininger in P1. It didn't really change the strategy up where someone could try an undercut, someone could try different strategies and make it work. This has really opened it up now where there's 2 strategies. You either save it or you go flat out and pit. And those 2 are so close to determining which one you do. It really just comes down to how you race. It's not a thing where you can pick it before you do it, but something might change and you may say, I'm burning way too much, and you have to pit. I think we've all done that, Zach, where you're pushing in a race, you thought at the start, I'm going to fuel save it, you realize you're burning too much fuel and you can't get it back to that number you wanted. You have to pit. You sort of put yourself in that position, and that's the thing where we don't know who's got what. We'd love to know, but at the moment it's just a race between who gets to the end.
Yeah, that's exactly right, and you can see Colin Klopman as well. He is really on the tail of Zeitzinger now, really on the tail. He's been quite a lot closer than he's been before, I think, actually, and he looks like he's gotten a pretty good run out of turn 7 there as well, so I think he might be having a look at making a move down here into turn 10. He's pretty close, definitely close enough to make a move. Adam's going to the inside.
Oh, they've given each other a lot of room. Plenty of room. Cohen got the rear loose coming through turn 10B, and Adam shuts the door, and he gave him a tap.
Pitting, but
Cohen gave him a tap. Wow, Adam's got to get the speed down. He does that. It's okay to a point where he was already coming in the pits, and Adam has just bitten a major bullet and somehow avoided what could have been much better. And Paul Lonergan pitted as well. So that leaves the only 2 of the top 4, Tobias Cherney and Colin Klopman, out there. We will see what happens. It's unlucky there for Adam. Colin didn't realise Adam was coming in the pits, gave him a little nudge. Adam hit the inside wall, but he was able to get it. Actually, that was a very quick stop there. 5.5 seconds from Adam Zeininger. That was the quickest, as well as Paul Lonergan, 5.5 seconds. And he's come out in a little bit of traffic there, Adam. That could hurt him, but he sort of got away with that to a point there, Zach. It could have been much worse, as we've seen already.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, that pit entry is pretty, especially when you're having a little bit of a battle like that, and you're using the inside of the track there, it's difficult to really slow down in any other way to actually make the pit lane. So that was just really unfortunate, and obviously you don't have that form of communication to say, hey, I'm coming in the pit so you can avoid me. But luckily he didn't lose too much time. He just nudged the wall. He might have lost a second or 2, but Colin Klopman's coming in the pits now as well. So everyone's blinked. Is Tobias Cherney got enough fuel to get to the end? He is going around again. So he looks like he's in the prime seat right now to take the victory here at Road Atlanta today.
Yeah, Tobias Cherney, I had a little bit of a talk to him before the race. He was sort of up in air about what he was going to do, but he did say this could be the thing as we look. There's a minute 30 to go, so we've got around 2 laps. If he's got 2 laps, he did say his number was lap 34. We're looking at lap 34 could be the finish time. If he has got this all right, as Adam Zeininger actually has come out. Oh, he's going to come out alongside Cohen Klopman. Sorry, Cohen Klopman's going to come out alongside Adam Zeininger, but Adam has shut that one door close. So the times were pretty close there. 5.5 seconds stop time from Adam and a 5.4 from Cohen Klopman. So a tenth difference. So not much has changed there. But now we turn our heads to Tobias. Tobias, as always, he just shows how consistent he can be in this car. He knows where to find the pace. He's, like we said before, he's driven this car a lot. He's driven in this series a lot, so he knows what to do, and he's doing a good job right now where he could be coming up to get the white flag. We're under a minute left. I've got about 1 lap left on my timing here, so this should be when he crosses the white flag. If he doesn't pit, he doesn't pit. This should be the white flag coming up right now. And this could be it. He's got to get around the 4.0 or 4.09 Ks of Road Atlantis to make it to the end. This could be a nail biter again, Zach.
Yeah, well, I mean, we don't know, do we? He could just be sitting there relaxing going, oh, I've got a 20-second lead, I've got this in the bag. But he could also have, 2 litres of fuel left, and he could just drop off dramatically halfway down that straight. So it'll be interesting to see. Just judging the way that he's driving the car at the moment, he looks pretty comfortable. He doesn't look like he's panicking too much. He doesn't really look like he's saving, I mean, as I said, he's got a nearly 20-second lead now. He doesn't look like he's saving 20 seconds worth of fuel. So I think he's got this one pretty comfortably.
Yeah, I think he does too. He's done an amazing job, Tobias, as always, and he's coming down the long back straight, coming around turns 8 and 9, which are on this straight, for the final time here at Road Atlanta, and he has done this to perfection. He told me he was going to try it, and he said, threw it up in the air and said, we'll see what happens when I get in the car. And here he comes, coming down into turns 10, A and B for the final time. If he makes it to the end, an amazing job once again here from Tobias Cherney. He's going to get the checkered as he comes around turn 11 and 12, and round 4 winner from Sim Races Asia is Tobias Cherney for Rensport. A great drive there from Tobias to come home in P1. The first car, the only car to non-stop here today. Adam Zeininger coming down in turn 11 right now. Will take up P number 2 in the MS Limited Edition sponsored Evolution Racing Australia car, with Cohen Klopman down there in P3, and the good battle here with Hayden Burns crossing the line in a Mad Cow Racing car just in front of Paul Lonigan. So that's going to help Adam Zeininger in the championship just open up that gap a little bit. And a couple of other cars coming across now. We know what happened with Jason Bentz, had some issues early on, but what a race there, Zach. That just shows Tobias knew what he was doing from the word go, and he delivered with a 15-second win after all that.
Yeah, mate, you're absolutely right. And as you were saying before, with the new setup of this series, not having to make a mandatory pit stop, it just opens up everything, and it makes everything so interesting. And that's just another perfect example. We've had 4 fantastic races during this series. Pretty much every one of them, you're just going down to the last couple of laps, you just don't know what to happen. Tobias has driven a fantastic race there. He seemed like he had everything under control. He kept it clean through those early stages, made those clean overtakes, obviously helped by a couple of people who had a little bit of trouble in front of him. But, he was there to capitalize, and he was the one that made it all work. Interesting to see as well. I think that's the 3rd, or is that the 4th race in a row we've had won by people zero stopping?
Yes, every race so far this championship has finished with a guy no stopping. So it's opening the door to what is a tremendous championship, and it could be mixed up a little bit if these results keep going the way they are, especially that's 4 different winners this season, no secondary winner. So it's definitely making it look good. But we'll run through the results before we get into any post-race interviews here. So Tobias Cherney takes out round number 4 of the Sim Races Asia Championship Series with no stop. didn't need the fuel. He fuel saved from the word go, and he got that one done by 15 seconds over Adam Zeidinger in P2, with Colin Klopman rounding out the podium. Hayden Burns down in P number 4 with Paul Lonergan in 5th. Good top 5 there. Jason Bentz, a good recovery drive to end up in P number 6. Paul Nelson in 7th, with Yazran Yali from 15th as well, down up into P8. Sorry, Tino Husar in 9th, with Matt Chinosky rounding out the top 10 and the last cars on the lead lap. Dick A. Lee was in 11th, 1 lap down. Benjamin Hackerson in 12th, Kevin Huang in 13th, Luis Galong in 14th, Simon Sanchez in 15th, Nathan Grouden 16th, who obviously came to strife in those later stages. Ian Ford, Tim Ryan, and Michael Hammond also multiple laps down, who had some dramas early on in the race. Now, Zach, who is your driver of the day? I think I know who I am going to choose. Who is yours?
Look, I think it's difficult to go with anyone but Tobias today. I mean, he was just so in control. He put it on pole, started 10th from a reverse grid. He made his way up through the field really quickly and held on to those 2 guys up the front until they pitted. And then, he just had it. He just had the whole thing sewn up. So I'm definitely going to have to go with Tobias today. Jason Bentz made a good recovery, but, did make those mistakes, a couple of them, most of them out of his own accord. Still good to come home in 6th. But, yeah, Tobias definitely today drove a fantastic race. And a shout out too to Adam and Cohen as well. They had some really good, hard battling. Always, nose to tail throughout pretty much the entire race. So, I mean, everyone had a fantastic drive, but obviously Tobias was the big standout today.
Yeah, I think I have to give it to Tobias as well. He had the fastest car, but to be able to do that, be the only guy who didn't stop, mind you, in the McLaren, which, mind you, is one of the thirstier cars of the lot. It's not nice on its fuel. It uses a lot of that horsepower and that extra fuel to get the top end speed that it has. So for Tobias to be able to do that and quite comfortably, well, not quite comfortably, I think he wouldn't have made an extra lap, but he got the numbers right. He got lap 34. He got it done. And for Tobias to be able to do that, he did an amazing job, as always. So I think we will see whether we can get any of them to come up for an interview. I don't know whether any of them are ready. I'm just going to have a quick look. Next week, though, while we have a look at that, we move to another track that could be a little bit different to what we've seen today. We go to Mid-Ohio. That's another track where it really throws it up in the air, Zach, on whether we're going to be having a fuel saver or a fuel stop. It really will mix it up a little bit there on who is going to get the benefit.
Yeah, well, that's exactly right. I mean, Mid-Ohio is it's kind of similar to Road Atlanta in a way. You've obviously got that really long, nice straight down the back there. But there are a lot of traction zones, a lot of places where you need to use your fuel, to your advantage. You want to use it in particular places. I know, I remember, I think it was Indy 2015, Scott Dixon had a fantastic win around Mid-Ohio by playing the fuel strategy game, just fuel strategy, and just saved as much as he could. And he really made it work there. So it'll be interesting if some of the guys in the SRA series can replicate that. Mid-Ohio is always a great track for good racing, just because a lot of that really tight, low speed kind of stuff where you're on a lot of mechanical grip can make for good racing.
Yeah, it will make for some amazing racing next week as we're here for some post-race interviews here, and we have picked up our race winner for round 4 of the Sim Racers Acer Championship, Tobias Cherney. Well done, Tobias. That was a amazing effort to be able to get that car to the finish line, no stop needed. And we had a little chat before the race, and you did that marvelously. Well done.
Yeah, hello guys, hello Jake. Well, I had to convert my strategy mid-race, so I was really going for the one-stopper. As you may have seen, that I tried to make a small, fast progress up to the front runners, and I thought they were going without a stop as well. But yeah, I tried it a few times against Cohn, but yeah, he was not lifting off. He was defending his position and so on. I thought like, oh yeah, he's also doing a stop. No way you're gonna let me pass. And with the ping, it was extra difficult to make any move. And was around lap 12 where I decided it doesn't work like this, so I have to yeah, save fuel and maybe yeah, try use the slipstream of the two guys ahead and yeah, finish third because I was not sure how the traffic was if I had pitted earlier, and I really had to do as much fuel saving as I've never done before, I have to say. So, but because both of these guys went into the pits the last lap, on the second last lap, I guess, I think it was. Yeah, I knew. Okay, I only need 2 liters for the last lap. It's okay if I lose 5 seconds there. They were 20 seconds behind. I couldn't believe my luck.
You did that amazingly, and that was one of the things we also picked up on as well, Tobias. You looked like you were going flat out, and then you swapped your strategy mid-race, and to be able to do that, you must have been pretty close on fuel. How much did you actually have at the end of that one? Because it must have been close.
Yeah, well, I ran out of fuel and basically over the line in turn 1. I saved half a liter. No, not half a liter. 0.1 of a liter for a half donut, maybe if you reverse the replay. But yeah, then it was empty. And
Wow.
the McLaren has 2 fuel mappings. This time I used both. I kept the car rolling and coasting and used the fuel map 2. And yeah, I was actually afraid that at one time, I think with around 10 laps to go, there were Nathan and Hayden behind me, and I thought they're gonna catch me. And yeah, I will maybe save more and more so that I can use map 1 and more gas for the last lap, but they disappeared as well. And yeah, suddenly I found myself as the only guy still running, and I couldn't believe it, really.
Yeah, it just seemed like everything fell into your place, but it was a marvelous job as always, Tobias. Next week we head to Mid-Ohio. That's going to be a little bit different for you. It may not be that clear cut as to whether it will be a fuel save or not. I think it's going to be another close one like this where a lot of people will be actually coming in the pits.
Yeah, I'm not sure if I will decide week to week if I have time. But I expect Mid-Ohio to be less fuel demanding than Road Atlanta. Actually, really, Road Atlanta is such a fast track, but it's also floating through the S's. So yeah, somehow it worked out. Mid-Ohio is a bit more. It's slower in general, and also you have to keep up the momentum. So I guess it should be possible to do a no-stopper there as well. And I also am also still in the server here in the post-race chat. I want to apologize to Luis Paulo Galon. Lap 5, beginning of lap 5, yeah, there was a misunderstanding between both of us. He was obviously surprised by my move, and yeah, it ruined his race. I'm sorry for that, but tried to stay. Well, I stayed as much on the inside as I could, and I think it was a legit attempt and a pass, and I will try to be more careful next time. But yeah, generally good racing with the guys. There were a few accidents around me, I saw as well. I'm not sure if I somehow further caused them, as I put, I think, Mick Hammond under pressure. Coming out of the S is the uphill left-hander. He went a bit wide, and I went as much to the inside as I could, and then he went off with a massive crash. But nothing that I did wrong from my side, I think.
Well, everything you did was very good here today that we've seen up in the booth, Tobias. Well done once again on what was an amazing victory here today, taking out round 4 of Sim Racers Asia.
Yeah, thanks guys. Thanks for the, I really hope, or I know, awesome broadcast. And yeah, thanks Mark for running this series. And congrats to my teammate Tino, who finished top 10. He also tried to without fuel saving, but yeah, he had to pit as well as I think basically all the other guys. I don't know if they were surprised by the extra lap, 34 laps, but yeah, I'm looking really forward to next time.
Thank you, Tobias, and well done once again on taking out that victory here today. As we move to Pete number 3 here, Colin Cotman. Colin, it looked like you had some pace there to battle with Adam to try and take that win away, but it wasn't the case, that both of you having to stop and Tobias being the one that didn't stop. Tell us about that one.
Yeah, it's kind of unfortunate, of course, but as soon as I saw Tobias lifting off on the long straight, I knew, well, I think he's gonna save it home. So I was kind of prepared for it, and as soon as I saw him dropping off like 4 seconds of me and Adam, thought, well, I'm gonna switch to map 2 on my Mercedes to save some extra fuel. But yeah, it didn't happen. I saved like 2-3 liters on the stop, and I could have taken 6 liters instead of 10. So I maybe could have taken Adam, but yeah, it is what it is. I'm happy with third place.
Yeah, you should be happy with third place. It was an amazing battle that you and Adam had. A little coming together when Adam was pitting, but always fair. He was obviously coming in the pitch, just tagged him a little bit as you were coming in. Didn't lose too much time to Adam as he still picked up second, but it was good to see you back up the front after you were struggling last week in the Ford.
Yeah, of course, I made the switch from the Ford to the Mercedes, purely because I couldn't find any pace in the Ford, and fuel saving is really hard in the Ford because it doesn't have any fuel map buttons or something. So that's kind of the reason I switched to the Mercedes.
Yeah, well, it definitely paid off for you today, Colin. So well done again on a marvelous podium here today at Roadliner. Anyone you'd like to thank before we let you go?
Yeah, the host, Mike Lang, for making this league possible, and you guys for broadcasting the race. Thanks for that.
Thank you, Colin, and well done again on P number 3. And we'll move up our final interviewee for today, Hayden Burns from Madcar Racing, coming home in P number 4. Interesting race there, Hayden. A lot of battles in that sort of pack with you. Paul Lonigan, you had Jason Benson, you also had Nathan Ground there mixing it up with you guys until he fell on the wayside. But tell us about that.
Evening, guys. Yeah, it was an interesting race. I started 14th or 13th or something. I really struggle in qualifying, if it's not obvious. And just set about knowing that my race car was good, just making up a few spots where I could, and a few unfortunate coming-togethers in front of me, which I managed to avoid. But got into that pack with Paul and Nathan and a couple of the other boys there, and I thought if I can get past Nathan in 2 or 3 laps, I'll try and then try and go, you know what I mean, get up the road. I could see Adam and Cohen up there as well, but I just couldn't do it. Just didn't have the moo power in a straight line, and needed to get a better run off that corner onto the back straight there, and just couldn't do it. So just tried to save as much fuel as possible, and lucky I did, because Paul was sitting behind me, fuel saving, and if I hadn't have saved enough fuel there behind Nathan, he probably would have jumped me on the pit stops, because it was quite close. We came out side by side, but it was a really good battle. The curbs here were nasty to every car except the BMW. Like, I saw Fords bouncing everywhere. Nathan was having problems in front of me, but yeah, just needed more moo power.
Yeah, definitely needed more moo power in that BMW. I'm going to use that from now on. Moo power in the BMW. I'm going to use that one for Madcar Racing cars from here on out. Still an awesome job, and now we got Mid-Ohio next week, but you guys have all got, obviously the race I think has actually started now. BES Pro Race, you got your 2 cars in there, and hopefully you guys go well tonight as well.
Yeah, thanks guys. The race has actually just started, and the boys are doing okay so far, I guess. I haven't heard anything in my ear that would suggest otherwise. But no, the boys did a lot of prep work and made sure we got good setup, good laps, good preparation and that sort of stuff. So hopefully we can bring a good result home tonight in 6 hours time, and hopefully the other Aussie teams pull through as well for our club. So
yeah, it's good to have a lot of the Aussie teams out there and doing a good job. So well done again tonight, Hayden, as well as the rest of the team. Good luck for this morning's race. And anyone you'd like to thank before we let you go?
Well, just quickly, I'd like to thank you boys for putting on the broadcast. It's really awesome, and I've been meaning to do an interview, but just haven't known the TS and time and whatever. But thanks for the broadcast, guys. And to Mark, and I know there's a couple of other guys who run and organise the series and help out, but the series is great fun. A little bit of Saturday night racing is really good. if I can make it and whatnot. And just thanks to the Mad Cowboys, because without them, I wouldn't have improved, to the level I'm at now, and hopefully we can continue improving. The guys have been really supportive and whatnot in my development since I've come across, so thanks to them as well.
Yeah, thank you to everyone, and well done once again, Hayden, on the P4 today. And I think that will wrap us up here today, Scott. So thank you once again to Zachary Hamlin joining me in the commentary booth today, and Scott Newton as well, always doing a marvellous job in the director's chair with the cameras. And I am Jake Blackhall, and that will round out round 4 of the Sim Racers Asia Championship. And we will look ahead to Mid-Ohio for next week, which will be another cracking race once again. Will we get another winner? It's been like that, 4 different winners for 4 different rounds. It could be 5 next week. Hope to see you there. Goodbye and have a good night.